This week, something extraordinary happened in women's health. The FDA and the HHS announced they're removing the black box warning from estrogen therapy. All I can say is it's about time. I'm Tina Jacobs. I'm a physician associate with 10 years of experience practicing medicine outside of insurance and outside these outdated guidelines. And today we're talking the truth about estrogen, hormone therapy, and cancer risk. For over 20 years, this ominous black label, the FDA's strongest warning label available, appeared on estrogen prescriptions and scared women and their doctors away from hormone therapy. But it was based on flawed data, misconception, and fear. And that fear has cost millions of women. It's cost them their health, increasing cases of osteoporosis, diabetes, dementia, heart disease, cost them their vitality, and led women to suffering with brain fog, reduced confidence, fatigue, hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings, zero sex drive, anxiety, and depression, and much more. And it's left practitioners like me who actually took the time to understand the research and saw the value of bioidentical hormones painted as just conspiracy theorists. And all of this for 20 plus years. While I'd love an apology from my colleagues, the real victims are the women who suffered. Today, I'm going to break it down. No fluff and no fear. First off, how we got here, what the WHI study that started the lie actually proves, why this black box change matters, why doctors are still telling their patients to avoid hormone therapy, and why women should never again be made to fear their hormones. Okay, how did we get here? Back in 2002, the Women's Health Initiative, or WHI, was stopped early. This was a massive government-funded study with over 27,000 women. It was designed to look at the long-term effects of synthetic hormone therapy, specifically Premarin, a synthetic estrogen, and Prempro, which is Premarin combined with a synthetic progestin called medroxyprogesterone acetate. These were older pharmaceutical drugs available at the time for women's estrogen and progesterone replacement during menopause or starting in perimenopause. We are told this study was stopped early because the data was so concerning. The headlines were terrifying. Estrogen causes breast cancer. Hormones increase heart attacks. Understandably, patients and doctors were a little scared. Almost overnight, millions of women stopped their hormone replacement therapy. Doctors panicked, and medical schools started teaching practitioners to fear hormones and stopped teaching advanced hormone therapy altogether. But what was missed, or maybe ignored, was this. Those scary risk percentages, they were relative risks, not absolute numbers. They were like saying your risk doubled, but not telling you that it doubled from almost zero to still almost zero. That kind of percentage makes the risk look terrifying, even though the real numbers of women affected were extremely small. The average woman in the study was 63, well past menopause. And come on, it makes sense that the body responds differently when hormone levels of estrogen and progesterone are maintained as a woman goes through menopause versus allowing hormones to drop off and be completely absent for 10 years and then reintroducing them abruptly 10 years later. And lastly, they were given synthetic estrogen and synthetic progestin. This isn't the same as bioidentical hormones. A 26% increase in breast cancer sounds like 1 in 4 women, but really it was 8 additional cases per 10,000 women per year. Heart disease was about 7 per 10,000 women, strokes were about 8 per 10,000 women, and blood clots were 18 out of 10,000, mostly due to the root of the medication being oral and causing that liver metabolism. And this was all when synthetic hormones were used in women who were over 10 years past menopause. When experts reanalyzed the data, this is what it really showed. Now, estrogen alone showed no increase, actually caused a decrease in occurrence of breast cancer. It also showed that younger women who started hormone therapy close to menopause actually had a lower cardiovascular risk. Starting hormone therapy during perimenopause versus waiting for hormones to drop makes a difference. Taking estrogen, synthetic estrogen, as a normal capsule or tablet instead of the recommended patch or cream or sublingual or pellet does cause a small increase in blood clot risk, mostly for those women who were over 10 years past menopause. Context matters, route matters, and timing matters. 2 decades later, the evidence is undeniable. Estrogen, used wisely, is one of the safest and most beneficial tools we have to optimize women's health. We should avoid standard capsules and tablets of estrogen. Using patches, creams, sublingual, BLA tablets avoids the liver clotting risk and improves heart, brain, and bone health. And we know that micronized progesterone, not the synthetic progestins, supports the brain, bones, mood, and sleep for women. Studies now show that women continuing hormone therapy after menopause and even beyond 65 have a lower mortality rate overall, fewer heart events, decreased risk of metabolic syndrome, diabetes, and obesity, decreased risk of osteoporosis and fracture, and most powerfully, hormone therapy, including estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone, helps preserve hippocampal volume, that's part of the brain, protecting that part of the brain responsible for memory, motivation, and emotion, and it reduces the risk of cognitive decline, dementia, and Alzheimer's. Balanced hormones don't just ease symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, fatigue, sleep disruption, mood changes, weight gain. They actually extend health span. I've seen both sides of the story myself. When I was young, I watched my mom suffer through menopause. She didn't have just hot flashes. She had anxiety, insomnia, depression, and pain. No one ever recommended that she used hormone therapy. Doctors just told her it was dangerous. Instead, they just gave her an antidepressant and told her this was all part of just being a woman. Years later, I've watched her decline. Cognitive changes, osteoporosis, difficulty managing weight, the cascade of what happens when women go decades without the hormones that protect their heart, brain, bones, and metabolism. And that's the part that hurts, because now it's too late to reverse. I can't go back and give her and so many other women what they needed, even though this is what I specialize in now. But I can make sure that you and every woman who walks through my door never go through that same needless suffering again. That's why I fight so hard for this message. And yes, that does include testosterone and DHEA. These aren't just male hormones. They're critical for a woman's muscle, libido, mood, energy, and metabolic health. A 2020 JAMA study of 27,000 women showed that testosterone can be protective, not harmful. Our bodies are designed for balance, not hormone deficiency. Now, why weren't we all taught this? As often the case, we need to follow the money. Here's the question every woman should be asking right now. If we've known the WHI data was flawed since 2004, if the corrections were published in 2013, if a major JAMA reanalysis in 2020 confirmed that estrogen reduces breast cancer risk, then how is it still possible that your primary care and OBGYN is still telling you that estrogen causes cancer? And I'm not exaggerating. Just last week, a patient of mine, a woman whose life had completely changed on hormone therapy, she was sleeping again, thinking clearly, finally feeling like herself again, had her PCP, or primary care, tell her to stop everything I prescribed. The patient told me her doctor looked at her like she was stupid. The doctor told her, and I quote, "Why are you on this? It's not worth the cancer risk." You mean the risk that was debunked in 2004, corrected in 2013, and fully overturned by 2020? So why is this still happening? Because medical education never corrected itself. Because pharmaceutical companies who cannot profit off the use of natural bioidentical hormones fund the curriculum, the conferences, and the massive scientific trials that shape the institutional guidelines. Because bioidentical hormones aren't patentable or profitable or marketed, So no one spends billions teaching doctors the truth about them. And because when the WHI fear campaign spread in 2002, it created a generation of clinicians just paralyzed by outdated information. They were taught hormones are dangerous, and no one ever came back to teach them otherwise. But here's the truth. Your doctor's fear does not reflect the current science. Your doctor's fear reflects the education they received 20 years ago and just never updated. Now, here's what the FDA's black box change signifies. The removal of the FDA's black box label is a long overdue acknowledgement that hormone therapy is safe and beneficial when used appropriately. It means that route matters, so still avoid the standard oral capsules and tablets whenever possible. We did learn this from the WHI study, that timing matters. Starting 10 years after menopause doesn't make sense. Start within 10 years of menopause or during perimenopause if possible. The makeup matters. Using bioidentical hormones makes a difference. And personalization matters. This is not a one-size-fits-all. The FDA's black box warning change is actually an exciting milestone for the revolution of women's health that I'm trying to be a part of. Free of monetary influence and a return to just informed, evidence-based care that really changes women's lives. If you're over 35 and struggling with fatigue, anxiety, poor sleep, weight gain, loss of libido, brain fog, or you feel like you've just lost yourself, you're not crazy. You're likely hormone deficient, and you deserve better answers. Find a provider you trust who is up to date and willing to follow the research, not just the old, outdated guidelines. Estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, when in balance, protect your heart, your brain, your bones. They don't take away years, they give them back. For the women who were scared into stopping their hormones, and for the daughters who watched their mothers suffer because they weren't given accurate information, you deserve better. And this is where that begins. The science is clear. Balanced hormones heal. And now, finally, the FDA is catching up to what we've known as bioidentical hormone replacement therapy providers all along. To every woman who's been told to tough it out, no more. To every doctor still afraid, it's time to update your education on female hormones. I'm Tina Jacobs, a physician associate and owner of Silk Life Medical, where we help women feel like themselves again with bioidentical hormone replacement therapy safely and effectively. Please subscribe and share this with a friend, a sister, a daughter, because this change doesn't just affect us. It's the future of women's health. Regardless of the outdated guidelines, I'll keep providing the unfiltered truth so together we can change the future of women's health.